The LGBTIQ plus community is outraged as more people have been killed in what the community terms a war on queerness spiraling out of control in South Africa. A further 2 women were brutally murdered, with the latest one being 22-year-old Anele Bhengu, who was discovered on Sunday in KwaMakhutha community, which is the south of Durban. Now, as the country commemorates Youth Day, let's talk about being a young queer person in South Africa. I'm joined now by KwaMakhutha, organizer of Queer Lives Matter. A very good afternoon to you, KwaMakhutha, and good to have you with us on Daytime Update today. Now, what does Youth Day mean for you as part of the queer community?
Good afternoon to you, good afternoon to your viewers. I think really as the queer community, what Youth Day sparks to us is a reminder of, one, the violence that is targeted against young people in this country, and really the inaccess and underfunding that we do have as a generation. I think Youth Day really is a reminder that in 1976, there was a moment where the youth said enough was enough. And I think where we stand as a community right now, as a queer community, with the hate crimes that are targeted against us, is us actually recognizing that enough is actually enough.
And how do you exercise that voice? How do you raise awareness to South Africans? As you say, enough is enough. What type of measures are you putting in place?
So, for example, as us as young people, as the organizers of the Queer Lives Matter movement, to understand the power of social media and the power of media in spreading a message. And that's really essentially what we've been doing over the past few months, is continuing the message of visibility of our lives as queer people, but also celebrating our existence in those platforms. But there are multiple organizations and NGOs and community organizers on the ground who have been mobilizing government, who have been mobilizing private sector in saying that, enough is enough. As we are in this month of also International Pride Month, it's actually making us recognize corporate companies to say that, it's not enough to put a rainbow flag on behind your company profile and call that activism and call that allyship. There needs to be more. There needs to be actual interventions that are put in place for our community, which is actually under attack at the moment.
From your observations, a lot of the discrimination towards or against queer people, where is it coming from? Is it mostly from the older generation, or is it also prevalent among the youth themselves?
And that's really what's shocking. If you look at the crimes that we've experienced since the 12th of February, we've lost 14 lives. And the perpetrators of these crimes are not the older generation that we say, are outdated in their thought. It's young people. There's one of the crimes that happened in Cape Town. A young man, a 17-year-old boy, was responsible for that crime, right? So it tells us as a community that, the homophobia and the queerphobia against our community is sustained. It's a societal, viewpoint that South Africa is a queerphobic society. It's not a matter of it's an older generation that's running out or that ideology is going to leave us, but rather that queerphobia is sustained in the society that we live in. It's young people committing these crimes against young people.
So what is the ideal that you as a young queer South African would like to see? What is the crux of your message? If you had to close your eyes and paint the perfect picture of being young and queer in South Africa, what would that look like for you?
I think the first and foremost thing is the recognition of our bodies beyond symbolism, right? It's understanding that the South African queer community, the South African Black queer community, faces large amounts of homelessness, right? Vulnerability and safety, dignity, right? So I think in imagining a South Africa that is safe for young queer Black people, it's that recognition from the state to say that there's an intervention that's needed from the state. It's that recognition from our society to say that we actually live in a homophobic and queerphobic society. It's a recognition from the religious community to stand up and protect us, right? It's a dignity being placed on our lives beyond symbolism and, empty rhetorics.
Have you or others that you know being locked out of opportunities because of your queerness?
This is the constant thing that, queer people have to fight with every day. Be it, the simple microaggressions of having to straighten up in order to get a job, or the microaggression of having to dress a certain way in order to have access in spaces, to actually very structural ways of, not getting jobs because they fear an HR problem if you're a trans body or a trans person, right? These are things that queer people have to interact with them every day. We think that as much as youth unemployment is a general issue in South Africa, it's even coupled on top of that from the state or the viewpoint of the queer community in this country.
And what has been your experience in your journey in being who you are? When did you let your family know, or was there ever a time when, quote unquote, you were not letting people know that you are queer?
You know, and again, it's also understanding the microaggressions of living as a queer body. I had to literally live in the closet, not only to my family, but to myself, my entire high school career, because of the nature of school I was in, or the nature of community I was in. I only came out and started to live truly as myself in my tertiary ages, right? Having only to come out to my father recently, not because I wanted to, but because I was going out and becoming an activist, or, you know, speaking on these issues that we're facing, and realizing, oh my goodness, my father's going to see me having an interview, speaking about these issues, right? So definitely, you know, this coming out thing is also layered in privilege as well. Proximity to, you know, whiteness, or, you know, information allows people like me to be able to come out, but also understanding that a lot of young queer black people in this country can't do that. They don't have that luxury, because when they do, they get kicked out of their homes. They face violence against their own bodies. So it's a very complex and political thing that, you know, we have to deal with in this age of coming out, really.
And what was your family's reaction when you came out?
My family's reaction was quite supportive. I have an amazing group of siblings who really are my defense force. You know, they're young, they understand the world, and they want to learn and understand the world more. So from my parents' point of view, really on their point was that they want to learn. You know, they are religious, you know, Christian background people who've been taught all these years that homosexuality is a sin. Not because the Bible says that, but because the churches say that, because the religious community says that. And really, from their point of view, was a thing of, you know, we love you and we support you. Help us learn, help us understand your life and who you are, really.
KwaMakhutha, thank you very much for talking to us today and highlighting the type of challenges that young people face in dealing with their queerness, or maybe not them, but really society around them dealing with queerness. Thank you very much for sharing your own personal experience as well. That's KwaMakhutha there from Queer Lives Matter.